Greetings, YouTube. As you probably know by now, the figurative, if not literal, leader of the Islamic State, Bakr al-Baghdadi, committed suicide while being pursued by U.S. Special Forces, detonating a suicide vest, killing himself and three of his children, and I can't imagine they all agreed to that. So, yeah, he was a horrible person to the very end. Um, and I'm not going to celebrate this man's death. I'm not going to celebrate anybody's death, not even the shit Gibbons. But something the shit Gibbons said about this whole process I found just astounding. Now remember that in theory, this shit Gibbon is the leader of the free world. And, well, actually, that's probably the president of Germany at this point. But his comments about Baghdadi, um, about his death, was that as a man running into the dead-end tunnel, whimpering, screaming, and crying all the way, who died like a dog and a coward. And if anyone knows anything about cowardice, it would be Private Bone Spur. The man has spent this entire life running from any kind of responsibility of any way, way, shape, and form. So, yes, the idea that he would know about cowardice and know about someone trying to do everything they could to avoid paying for their actions, taking responsibility for their actions, comes as no surprise is that the shit given is an expert on that particular topic. He has never taken responsibility for any action that he's ever made his entire life, ever. He hasn't had to. And Baghdadi didn't want to take responsibility for his actions. Even if he wasn't the actual leader of the Islamic State, he was the figurative leader. The person standing up there and saying, yes, the Islamic State does exist. Come join us because we have territory. Well, the Islamic State doesn't have territory anymore, even though they are probably still going to do everything they can to get some territory back. I hear that they've been dabbling in some parts of Afghanistan, and there are still places in Syria they would like to take back. I don't know if they're ever going to be able to do that. But they can still exist as a terrorist organization, and who knows, they may join forces with some others in the world to sorry, cat hair everywhere, to spread more death and destruction and terror, trying to impose their socially conservative worldview upon the rest of us. I recently encountered someone that didn't seem to grasp what I meant by the phrase social conservative worldview, social conservatism. Seemed to think that he had a rather positive view of the term social conservatism, and it was very strange, and seemed to think that my definition of social conservatism as the founding block for all the bigotry and hatred in the world was a very American-centric concept. So I would really appreciate it if anyone who sees this video would like to share what do they personally consider to be a socially conservative worldview, um, because I think it's pretty clear that organized religion and terrorism and the patriarchy and toxic masculinity, these are all parts of a socially conservative worldview. And I, again, consider social conservatism as the biggest threat that the human species currently is under. There's nothing more dangerous, in my opinion, than social conservatism. And it is social conservatism that people like al-Baghdadi were trying to sell to the world, and they were willing to use violence to achieve that end. So if you think you have a more favorable definition of social conservatism, I'd like to hear it. As I have yet to ever see social conservatism do anything positive in the world. And I would be intrigued to see if someone could prove me wrong. So, like I said, I'm not going to celebrate al-Baghdadi's death, and I'm appalled that the President of the United States discussed his death in the way he has, particularly seeing as he is a well-known coward. Were he to be finally put to task and forced to take responsibility for his actions, it wouldn't surprise me in the least if we found him whimpering in a corner doing everything he could to avoid that horrible fate.